Welcome to Experts Explain Trauma. Today, Tim Fletcher joins us to answer a common question that survivors ask themselves, as well as giving us tips to help us on our healing journey. Okay, Tim, here's our question for today. How does suppressed anger affect trauma survivors, and how can they release it safely? Key word, safely.
Yeah. So if I can just back up and kind of lead into this, what comes out of complex trauma is they've only seen anger expressed in hurtful ways. They've only felt anger pull them in a desire to hurt others. And so anger quickly is seen as a bad emotion. And often they were punished as kids if they were angry and told not to be angry. So that compounded that anger is bad. Where I want clients to start is that anger initially is actually a very good emotion. So if somebody does anything, if you're in a relationship with somebody and they do something that violates love, they lie to you, they steal from you, they cheat on you, they betray you, you get angry, and you should get angry. If justice isn't done, something's unfair. That's not fair. We should get angry. And what anger does is it gives us the motivation and desire to pull that relationship back to a healthy, loving relationship. Because it's saying if we keep telling lies to each other and betraying each other, we're going to destroy our relationship. We're going to hurt ourselves. I want this to get back to an honest relationship, a reliable relationship. So anger is actually a great alarm system that something's violating love and a great motivator to try to get it back to loving boundaries within the relationship. But if you look at a child in complex trauma, they're living with injustice all the time. They're living with disrespect all the time. They're being lied to all the time, gaslit, all of that. And they're getting angry all the time, but then they get punished for it. Then they get told that they're bad, it's their fault. And they can't express that anger in a way that's going to resolve anything. So the anger they got to push it down. And it becomes like lava in a volcano. It just is pushed down and it's bubbling away, but they can't release it. But it's there all the time. And it kind of gets pushed to a subconscious level, but part of them knows they're just constantly angry. And that's why people with complex trauma they've got this deep underlying constant anger that's been there as long as they can remember. The problem is once they get to adult life and they're not that little child anymore that has to push it down, if somebody disrespects them, something's unfair, somebody lies to them, somebody cheats on them, betrays them, that lava becomes the eruption of the volcano and it's spewing out. So they don't know how to express that anger properly now. There's so much pent up anger there that it just explodes and scorches everybody. So there's a whole bunch of pieces here that I want people to understand. So number one, we want to return to validating and encouraging and expressing good anger when love is violated. But we got to learn to express it in ways that don't violate love, that don't hurt people, but try to restore a healthy relationship. And that's a big skill. That's a lot to learn. And because anger is so intense, it's like once anger is triggered and that volcano is erupting, how do you stop an erupting volcano? It's like, how do you stop a train once it's leaving the station? Like, horses aren't strong enough to hold it back. It's just so powerful and so intense. So that's the second piece, and that is when anger is triggered, cortisol is released in the brain, and cortisol is what gives us that energy to fight or flight. It's the turbocharged jet fuel that gives us the extra power and intensity to survive. So when a child has to suppress all of that anger, they're not just suppressing anger, they're suppressing cortisol. So So if you look at an animal like a deer, let's say that's afraid, a lion, they get a shot of cortisol. That means they can run faster. Once they get to safety, so they're now out of danger, they get to a little bush, they lay down and they tense all their muscles and shudder and take a deep breath. And then what's happening there? It's releasing the last of the cortisol. It's getting it out of their system and it's all being resolved. But what happens to a child that never gets to safety and they still got cortisol pumping every day? Well, they go to school with all this energy and get diagnosed with ADHD. They're holding all of this down, and that constant cortisol that's being repressed begins to affect their immune system, begins to affect their organs, their health. And so Dr. Gavin Mate's done tremendous work in just showing that suppressed cortisol is the leading cause of most of our illnesses today. And that's for many people anger. But then we got to flip it. So what children realize is good anger, can't use it, I get punished for it. But as they get older, they go, I've got some other uses of anger that I kind of like. I can hurt people, I intimidate people, I can manipulate people. It keeps me from getting hurt. It gives me energy because if I'm angry, I got all kinds of energy to clean the house. And if I'm angry, I don't feel all the other emotions, so it medicates all my other pain and anxiety. So let's just use anger for all these other purposes like weapons and armor and medication. I like anger. And they become addicted to the cortisol. They need the cortisol to feel alive, to feel safe, to feel powerful, in control. And now it's got this whole new maladaptive usage that's very dangerous. And in the short run, it seems like a good idea, but it begins to destroy everybody they touch.
And them
every
too.
relation. And them, exactly.
That makes so much sense. Because like for me, I'm an empath. Like I don't want to be angry. I hate anger.
Yeah.
And I think I described it during our podcast that one time about a year ago, I had the self-awareness of feeling my anger, like full on feeling it and the only way I can describe is that it filled my entire body. Like when you were saying it's like a volcano, that's like, oh my gosh, you're so right. Because the lava completely filled me and I became instantly aware and said, okay, fill this, and and I did. And because I took a second and took a breath, I didn't do the reaction that I wanted to do because my reaction is I wanted to be that lava exploding on anybody who was around.
Yeah. So often when I teach about anger, I've had like countless clients say, I don't have any anger. And so in their mind, all they think of is the only proof of anger is the explosion of the
right.
volcano. And so I go, there's three other ways that anger exists inside of you. It's not just the explosion. So some turn their anger inward and they're constantly putting themselves down, mad at themselves, hating themselves. That's anger turned inward. And that's so dangerous and destructive.
Yeah. I used to do that too.
Yeah. And then the next one is the people that just suppress it to such a degree that they just disconnect from emotions. So I just don't feel. And I go, okay, so basically you're a walking brain, which is a robot. You're not really human anymore, which then is going to really render you quite incapable of healthy relationships. So it maybe seems to have solved your anger issue, but it's really made you live at a huge deficit when it comes to relationships and all your other emotions. But then the third one is what we call kind of passive aggressive, underhanded, sneaky.
Yeah. Ooh,
So
that makes me mad.
yeah, so I'm going to act like I like you, but I'm going to take little shots at
Yeah.
you, do little pouting, silent treatment, withhold love, close my heart to you, all of that just to punish you without you even realizing that I'm doing it. And so most people have done all four and they kind of pick the ones that are their favorites, but they usually follow a pattern. So they stuff it, then they turn it on themselves, then they get passive aggressive, and then it explodes. And it kind of gradually builds through that cycle. So I think it's important for people just to realize anger shows up in different ways in people, and this the self-awareness to discover your pattern, your style, because it's still anger.
Right.
And it's not being resolved in a healthy way. It's actually hurting you and others. And so the more you can become aware of it, the better.
Yeah, it's interesting that you, excuse me, in the beginning you shared about anger and how those of us that have complex PTSD and trauma and everything, that, yeah, my experience with anger is only screaming, hitting, hurting. It's not there. I mean, I didn't learn about how to properly manage my anger until I was an adult. So I just did what I knew, right? But I did stuff it. And if I did show anger, I did get corrected, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah. So if I can add another piece to that, that I
Absolutely.
think is important for some. So we put anger in the emotion category, which is important. But what's just as important is that for most complex trauma, it happened to people pre-verbal. So when they were infants, they couldn't talk yet. And so they didn't have the words to process the pain they were going through. So they didn't have words to process their emotions and their anger, etc. And so what the brain does, because it's just too painful to keep all of that there, is it pushes it down into the body and stores it in the body as a body sensation. And so sometimes the starting point for people in identifying their anger is to realize it doesn't show up as an emotion for them. It shows up as a physical pain or a physical sensation. So they get a feeling in their chest or in their head or in their neck or in their gut or even in their legs, or they start getting tense muscles or headaches. That's where their brain has stored their anger in their body. And when they can begin to get in touch with that, that often begins to open the door into exploring their anger, understanding their anger, and then they get to feeling the emotions connected to it.
Yeah, my anger, I feel it in my chest and my throat.
Yes.
Oof, especially my throat.
Yeah.
And that's only if I keep my voice, if I don't have a voice. If I
Yes.
don't have a voice, it will hurt my throat really bad. It's really strange. That's something kind of new that I realized, because I didn't have a voice until like a few years ago. And now if I try to suppress it, it
Yeah.
doesn't go well for me. I have to express myself. But I take a minute and go calm down and sort my thoughts out before I respond to someone. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. So how
So,
would, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
well, I'm just going to add another piece here as
Hmm.
far as starting to heal and change. So if you look at kind of many complex trauma families, so mom and dad can be angry, but the kids can't. So it's almost like a double standard is happening within this family. But the child's conscience, again, is being trained that anger is bad, and that they have to avoid anger at all costs, never rock the boat, sweep everything under the carpet. They are afraid of angry people. They're afraid of conflict because nothing good has ever come out of any of that. It only leads to more pain. So now in recovery, they have to be able to face angry people, enter into conflict, but express their anger. And what always happens, so this was their normal, zero anger. Now they want to go to healthy, which is express some anger. That feels like they're a very angry person. That feels like they're a terrible person. That feels like they're a narcissist. And so it's really, and they might, if they've got any narcissistic parents still in their life, they may go, "Oh, you're terrible. Look at how angry you are." And they don't have a sense of what healthy normal feels like yet. It just feels wrong. And it takes a while for people to get a new normal and to be, okay, that's what normal anger feels like. That's not being bad. That's actually good. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm owning it. I'm letting myself feel it. I'm understanding what's the pain under the anger. And I think that's another important piece for people in moving forward, is that anger is both a primary emotion. I can get angry, but it's also a secondary emotion because I was lied to, because I was cheated on, because it's not fair. So whenever I'm angry, I need to get to what's the primary hurt that the anger's notifying me of, because I can't properly deal with the anger unless I address that hurt. And so if I've been disrespected or lied to, I need to be able to see that and go, okay, that's the real issue here. My anger is just the alarm bell that I've been disrespected, and that's what I need to focus on.
You know, one thing I wanted to bring up that, and I noticed this, when I look back, I noticed it a lot, but I noticed this recently. Like, I've got a really mellow husband. He's very easygoing. We have 2 border collie boys that are sometimes a challenge, and we'll yell at him, not in a mean way, but hey, blackjack or whatever, yell, and it depends on where I'm at. But sometimes when he does that, I instantly, it sounds, and I noticed this like a few weeks ago. It was so funny. He was trying to get the dog's attention, so he was yelling kind of a lot. And I was just like, I literally got up and walked out of the room, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I realized my body was responding to this.
Exactly. So what I would say to clients is, as you grow, the things that trigger your anger get less and less.
Yeah.
But the thing that probably triggers your anger the most is if your spouse seems to be dysregulated.
That's funny.
So if they're dysregulated, then automatically I'm dysregulated. And that's scary. I don't want to be around a dysregulated person.
Yes.
So one of my greatest triggers is if my wife is dysregulated, I want to get out of the room. Like,
yes.
That triggers me more than anything else. And so my old thing would be either flight or fight. I want to get out of here, or I want to go to attack mode. And I have to realize, okay, something's triggering her. I gotta distance myself a little bit and disengage. This isn't my issue.
Yeah.
And I got to figure out what's going on inside of me and get myself regulated. And that's another set of skills and tools to be able to do that. But it's very important.
It is. And for me, I recognized that I wanted to leave the room, and I'm like, okay, why do I have this sensation? And then I realized what was going on. And I told myself, I'm safe. I'm safe. Yeah, exactly. I'm safe. And I did my breathing, and it went away right away. But I still catch it, like, if it just depends on, if I'm tired or something like that. But if it's just a normal day, it doesn't normally bother me. But I wanted to bring that up to people, that pay attention to that and listen to your body, because your body's telling you something. And then it really was that simple. It's something from my past. It triggered me. I was able to say, I'm safe, take a deep breath, and I was fine.
Yeah. One other thing I would just add to people is, to me, anger can be, or irritability, can be a wonderful warning sign that I'm not in a good place. So either my needs aren't being met properly, or I'm burning myself out and not taking care of myself. So I'm getting more and more tired. So for me, I have 2 main things that begin to become evidence as warning signs. Is number 1, I get more irritable. Everything starts to annoy me, or I have more difficulty being present. And those 2 things are, okay, something's going on here. My anger is actually trying to alert me to something deeper going on. So I see it like the little red light on my dashboard on the car saying something's wrong under the hood. You need to go check.
Pay attention.
And it's not like dumb light, I hate you.
Yeah.
It's pay attention and take time to figure it out.
Yeah. So anger is an important emotion that we have. It's just out of balance is where it creates the problem for us as well as everybody around us. I know I walked around with so much anger, and now it's foreign. I want to say foreign to me as opposed to what it was before, right? I walked around with just always angry. And now when I do get angry, it's not very often. And I don't want to stay in that place at all. And I do what I can to get myself out of this in a healthy way, out of that anger mode. Because what used to happen is if, I'm walking around in survival mode, I'm angry, and then something sets me off, it would take me days to calm down.
Yeah. 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 And I think one of the things that I try to get clients to think about is that for many people that had that lava for years, anger's actually kind of their normal, their default setting. And so if they're not consciously working on their recovery and staying attuned to themselves, their brain will naturally gravitate back to what feels normal, to a default setting. And they find themselves all of a sudden creating a bit of chaos, creating just so they get some anger back because something in their brain wants to be in an angry state. And it's beginning to realize, wow, I got to recreate a new default setting. And that's going to take time, but it's going to take very conscious daily practices to help me get to a new default setting.
Exactly. And that's where the self-awareness will help you, and listening to your body and listening to the thoughts going through your head and what you're feeling. And yeah, that's so important.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Tim, so much. This is a big subject that I know that so many of us survivors deal with, and this is most helpful. I have been hugely enlightened by it.
Good.
If you resonate with this video or it's helped you out at all, let us know in the comments. Also, make sure to follow so that you can get more insightful information on trauma healing.